Evening all. Just seeing this current new year, I seeing this current new year, I decided to actually treat ourselves, that's me and my mum, to a visit to the cinema to see. It was out exactly today in our local Odeon here in Norwich. The new Nosferatu movie. Now, for those who don't know anything about Nosferatu and Count Orlok, a bit of background to the whole thing. Back in the Victorian period, 1800s, an Irish fellow called Bram Stoker wrote one of the most famous novels and a real classic of its genre, which was the novel Dracula. Dracula told the story of a young newlywed man who works as an estate agent called Mr. Harker. And one day he's sent on a unusual quest to travel deep into the heart of Transylvania to visit this eccentric count in his castle, because he apparently wishes to buy a property in the UK. Once there, he sets up a deal, he's given his lodgings, and then he has a series of weird experiences that may or may not be dreams. He then sets off, heads back to Britain, unaware that he has brought something back with him. This thing, this demonic force, sets about wreaking havoc with him and his family. It's only through the help of a professor called Van Helsing that he's able to put a stop to this malignant force. Stoker was inspired by the stories of a medieval warlord called Vlad Dracul, who was a genuine leader in medieval Transylvania, credited with protecting his country's territory from the Turkish hordes who tried to conquer it. He was also known for sending rather a lot of people to their deaths through impalement. Now, it has to be remembered that in medieval Transylvania, execution by impalement was the kind of preferred way of sending bad people off at the time. So he is kind of misunderstood in a way, I suppose. Anyway, what happened was, fast forward to the early 20th century, there's the technology of the moving image, the moving camera has advanced to the point where real feature-length moving pictures are starting to become adaptations of famous works. And a German Expressionist film director called F W Murnau directed a feature originally titled Nosferatu, a Symphony in Horror. And this feature was an adaptation of Dracula. And there was only one problem. He did not get the permission from Bram Stokers' estate before making it and releasing it. Yeah, the estate took Murnau to court. It was found that Nosferatu was indeed a complete rip-off, and it was a complete rip-off of basically of Dracula. And it was ordered that all copies must be destroyed. But one copy, I think it was the master copy, was squirreled away. And that's how Nosferatu survived. Now, that whole story of whole court case is one that I think one day will eventually, as the whole law and this Nosferatu becomes the franchise becomes a legend along its own right. This will eventually get a drama of its own. I've seen the original; it's brilliant. Real classic of its silent period era. I haven't seen the 70s version. I probably should. Yeah. But so on to this version of Nosferatu that has just come out. So a very similar story. It's now set in Germany, of course. An estate agent, newlywed, called Thomas Hutter is sent off to the Carpathian Mountains, where he learns of the culture of the Romany Gypsy people who live there and their ways and traditions. And he meets the Count in his castle, Orlok, whom he believes he is setting up a deal for him to buy a property in Germany. However, it turns out the Count has an alternate agenda, and what he's really after is to get his hands on Thomas Hutter's wife. That's why he chose him specifically to come and do the deal with him. There's this famous scene where, during the night, Hutter wants to get his locket back from Orlok, so he heads off to where he sleeps in this crypt. There, he awakes him in his coffin. And he springs out very, very somnambulantly and frightens Hutter back to his dorm. Hutter then leaves the next day. This is where things all get a bit sort of jump scary, you know. And it's a shame that with this era of the talking colour cinema that we seem to rely so much on jump scares, whereas in the era of the silent film, it relied on moments of atmospheric suspense. In the original film, Orlok merely rises very slowly and sinisterly and with lots of menace out of his coffin. Like, you know, he doesn't jump out and go boo. He goes. That's a really freaky, scary scene. But here is where things get to a point where I never expected to see this. Once back in his home city of Visberg, a ship which was carrying Orlok over this wrong river, possibly the Rhine, has run aground. The crew are all dead, and the ship has been completely infested with rats. These rats carry a plague which soon start wiping out half the populace. And it's at this point that Hutter's wife makes a confession that completely becomes a complete twist that you just don't see coming. She tells him that she and this being actually have a bit of history together, where they used to be in a kind of relationship. The thing is, Orlok is in fact a long-dead count whose body has been reanimated by a demon being called Nosferatu. A Nosferatu comes in the shape of a walking zombie-like creature who must feast on human blood in order to stay alive, and can only be seen at night. And it turns out that she confesses to having had various erotic rendezvous with this creature. In other words, what I thought had been a film about a vampire has ended up being a film about essentially something else. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment.